Wow, this is insane and ridiculous. So if you get on Twitter and you search Israel or Palestine, you're going to see a bunch of representatives from the United States as supporting Israel for whatever they're doing, and even some people from India on Twitter. I don't know if they're trolling or it's Islamophobia or what. They're supporting Israel for whatever they're doing. They're facing one of the worst crises of COVID-19, and this is where they're putting their attention to. Anyways, that aside, let's go back to the topic. Okay, so the United States, it used to be ruled by the British. And when the Americans, they, got the weapons and, they decided to rebel against the British rule, the colony, they took the United States and they were called patriots, right? When Indians, for example, they took their country from the British, or, name it, around the world. There were multiple countries around other dictatorship or something. When they took the country back, they're called patriots, right? So why is it in the case of Palestinians, when they try to fight back and get the land that's been seized by the Israeli forces, they're referred to as terrorists, but everyone else is referred to as patriots, or whatever you want to call it, freedom fighter, whatever you want to call it? What kind of hypocrisy is that? When the Germans were massacring the Jews and they fled all over, people put a lot of sympathy toward it, and, anti-Semitic became a thing. However, now when somebody speaks against the state of Israel, they are doing the same type of oppression what the Germans did to the Jews. They're doing the same thing to the Palestinians now, and anyone that speaks against it, like, hey, what Israelis are doing is bad, it's called anti-Semitic. Like, what kind of BS is that? So there's representative from New York, like Andrew Yang and other politicians. They're supporting Israel. Like, hey, we support Israel and we're standing to you shoulder by shoulder. And an attack on Israel is an attack on the United States. Like, what kind of bullcrap is that? They've been grabbing land from the Palestinians since the 1947. Why? Because they said they're chosen, and in the religion they said that God gave them this land or whatever. So somebody could be born in Argentina or whatever, but because he said his religion is he's a Jew, he has a right to somebody else's house that used to belong to a Palestinian for generations and generations. Just because of his religion and his belief, he gets the right to their individual house. What kind of crap is that? Does it make any sense to anyone? I just want to know, does it make any sense? You're going to chase away somebody that's been living there for generation and generation and kill them and seize their land since 1947. Each decade you see such a huge amount of land from them. And then when they're trying to defend themselves, you call them terrorists or whatever, because they want to give back whatever they had. Some people say like two-state solution, but why is it that Israel keeps wanting more and more and more land and chasing? If you look at the map from 1947 to now, each decade you're going to see difference. The amount of land that used to be owned by the Palestinians became smaller and smaller. You can clearly see what the Israelis are doing. For those of you who talks about patriotism or democracy, what we supposed to be or whatever you want to call it, aren't we supposed to support the weak ones, the one that are oppressed, not the oppressors? I don't know if it's Islamophobia or it's the color or whatever it is that people have against the Palestinians they don't want to support. Like today, 20 people died, and more than 7 and around 9 or so were children. Israel has one of the best defense in the world. When the rockets gets fired at them, they can just deflect them. But each time they fire, the Palestinian has nothing, and it has just a bunch of houses and stuff, and then children and stuff dies. If they really want a two-state solution, they should give back the land that they took from the Palestinians, the amount of land they took. They should give that amount of land back, and that way they can have 2 states. They already built on so much on the Palestinian land, so I don't know how they're going to do that. I just want you to look deep inside of yourselves without being biased and tell me what the Israelis are doing, if it's just, can you really defend them? How many Palestinians has they killed since this started? And tell me how many Israelis died. Just compare the number. And trust me, it pains me to see death on either side, but just compare the numbers, or compare how much land that's been taken by the Israelis. We literally are watching a genocide, a slow genocide that's taking place. And everybody's so quiet about it, and then we have a bunch of politicians here. It's like, oh, if you speak against the Israeli government, is anti-Semitic. No one is speaking against the Jews. It's the government of Israel. I love Jewish people. They're my brothers, you know. In Islam, you're supposed to believe in the previous books, like the Torah and those others. We believe in Moses and all of that. We love them, but Israel is a country, and it's a country that's oppressing a minority, a big minority actually. Standing against that is not anti-Semitic. You're not standing up against a religion or an ethnicity. It's a state that's oppressing people. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later.